Hi everyone, welcome back to GenAI Lens. In today's video, we're going to talk about a very practical question. How do you check whether ChatGPT recommends your brand? This sounds simple, but it is actually becoming one of the most important marketing questions for founders, creators, and business owners. Because more people are no longer only going to Google and clicking through search results. They are asking ChatGPT directly. They are asking questions like, what are the best tools for customer support? What are the best legal AI assistants? What are the best AI sales tools? What are the best project management tools for a small business? What are the best alternatives to this product? And in those answers, ChatGPT may mention 5 brands, 10 brands, or sometimes only 2 or 3. So the question is, does your brand show up? And if your brand does show up, is it described correctly? And if your brand does not show up, which competitors are being recommended instead? That is what we are going to break down today. This video is not going to be just theory. I want to give you a simple step-by-step process that you can use manually, even if you do not have any special software. By the end of this video, you should know how to run a basic ChatGPT visibility check for your brand, how to score the results, and how to interpret what those results actually mean. Before we go into the steps, let's define what we are measuring. When I say ChatGPT recommends your brand, I do not only mean that ChatGPT knows your company name. That is the easiest test. For example, if you type, "What is your company name?" ChatGPT may be able to answer. But that is not the most important question. Because if a user already knows your company name, then they are already aware of you. The more important question is whether ChatGPT mentions your brand when the user does not know you yet. For example, if you are building an AI customer support tool, the real question is, when someone asks, "What are the best AI customer support tools?" Does ChatGPT include your company? If you are building legal AI software, the real question is, when someone asks, "What are the best AI tools for small law firms?" Does ChatGPT mention your product? If you are building an AI observability platform, the real question is, when someone asks, "What tools can help monitor LLM applications?" Does ChatGPT include you in the answer? That is brand discovery. And that is where AI visibility becomes powerful. In traditional SEO, we often care about ranking on Google. In AI visibility, we care about whether your brand is part of the AI-generated consideration set. That phrase is important. Consideration set. When ChatGPT answers a recommendation question, it is often creating a short list of options in the user's mind. If your brand is included, you have a chance. If your brand is missing, the user may never even know you exist. So the goal of this process is not just to ask, "Does ChatGPT know my brand?" The better question is, does ChatGPT naturally recommend my brand for the problems I solve? Now, another important point. Do not expect ChatGPT results to be perfectly stable. If you ask the same prompt multiple times, you may not get the exact same answer every time. The order of brands can change. The number of brands mentioned can change. Sometimes one competitor appears, sometimes another one appears. This is why you should not obsess over one single prompt or one single answer. The smarter approach is to test a set of prompts and look for patterns. Recent discussions in the AI visibility and GEO community point out that individual AI answers can vary a lot, but visibility percentage across a larger set of prompts is more useful than trying to claim a fixed, rank number 1 position in ChatGPT. So we should think in terms of consistency, not one-time ranking. That means we are going to measure things like, how often is your brand mentioned? Which prompt types trigger your brand? Which competitors appear more often? Is your brand described accurately? Is the sentiment positive, neutral, or negative? And where are the gaps? Now let's go through the process. Step 1 is to define your category. This is very important. Do not start by testing random prompts. Start by writing down the category where you want your brand to be discovered. For example, AI customer support software, legal AI assistant, AI sales automation tool, project management software for startups, LLM observability platform, healthcare billing AI, financial planning app. The category should be specific enough that ChatGPT can generate a meaningful list of brands. If your category is too broad, like AI tools, the results will be noisy. If your category is too narrow, like AI tool for dentists in Massachusetts with fewer than 5 employees, ChatGPT may not have enough information. So you want a middle ground. A good category sounds like something a real buyer would say. For example, Best AI customer support tools for e-commerce. Best legal AI tools for contract review. Best AI sales tools for outbound teams. Best LLM monitoring tools for developers. Once you define the category, step 2 is to create your prompt list. I recommend starting with at least 20 prompts. If you want a more reliable test, use 50 prompts. For a serious monitoring system, you may later use 100 or more prompts. But for a manual first check, 20 to 30 prompts is enough to learn something useful. Your prompts should not all be the same. You want different prompt types. The first type is discovery prompts. These are broad recommendation prompts. For example, what are the best AI customer support tools? What are the top legal AI platforms? What are the best LLM observability tools? What are the best AI tools for sales teams? These prompts tell you whether ChatGPT sees your brand as part of the category. The second type is use case prompts. These are more specific. For example, what tool should I use to automate customer support for a Shopify store? What AI tool can help a small law firm review contracts? What platform can help developers trace errors in LLM applications? What software helps sales teams write better follow-up emails? These prompts are useful because buyers often search by problem, not by product category. The third type is comparison prompts. For example, what are the best alternatives to competitor? How does competitor A compare with other tools? What are the top competitors to competitor? This is very important. If your brand is missing from comparison prompts, it may mean ChatGPT does not see you as a direct competitor in the category. The fourth type is buyer intent prompts. These are prompts where the user sounds close to making a decision. For example, which AI customer support tool should a startup choose? What is the best legal AI assistant for a small law firm? What is the best LLM monitoring tool for a production app? Which AI sales automation platform is best for a small team? These prompts may be the most valuable because they are closer to purchase intent. The fifth type is educational prompts. For example, how do I monitor an LLM application in production? How can a law firm use AI to review contracts? How can an e-commerce company automate customer support with AI? Educational prompts are useful because sometimes ChatGPT mentions tools while explaining how to solve a problem. So now you have a prompt list. Step 3 is to run the prompts. For very simple test, open ChatGPT and run each prompt one by one. I recommend using a fresh chat for each prompt, or at least being consistent with your setup. Why? Because ChatGPT can be influenced by earlier context. If you ask about your brand repeatedly in the same conversation, the model may start mentioning your brand more often because you put it into the context. That can make your results less realistic. So for a cleaner test, use separate chats or reset the conversation context. Also, do not tell ChatGPT your brand name before asking the recommendation question. For example, do not say, "My company is called Acme AI. What are the best AI customer support tools?" That will bias the answer. Instead, ask the question like a normal customer would. What are the best AI customer support tools for small e-commerce teams? Then record whether your brand appears naturally. This is important because you want to test real discovery, not assisted recall. Step 4 is to record the results in a spreadsheet. Your spreadsheet can be very simple. Create columns like prompt, prompt type, was your brand mentioned, mentioned position, competitors mentioned, was the description accurate, sentiment. For mentioned position, you do not need to overcomplicate it. You can simply record first, 3, mentioned later, not mentioned. The exact ranking may not be stable, but the pattern is useful. For competitors, write down the brands ChatGPT recommended instead. This is often one of the most valuable parts of the analysis. Because even if your brand is missing, you learn which companies ChatGPT associates with your category. Now, step 5 is to calculate a simple visibility score. Do not make this too complicated at the beginning. You can start with number of prompts where your brand appeared, divided by total prompts tested. So if you tested 30 prompts and your brand appeared in 6 of them, your mention rate is 20%. That is your basic ChatGPT visibility score. But I recommend also separating the score by prompt type. For example, discovery prompts, 3 out of 10. Use case prompts, 2 out of 10. Comparison prompts, 0 out of 5. Buyer intent prompts, 1 out of 5. This is much more useful than one overall number. Because maybe your brand appears in educational prompts, but not in buyer intent prompts. Or maybe your brand appears when people ask about your exact category, but not when they ask for alternatives to your competitors. That tells you where the problem is. And that leads us to the most important part. Interpretation. Now let's talk about how to interpret the results. There are usually a few common scenarios. Scenario 1. Your brand is almost never mentioned. This is common for newer startups. If this happens, do not panic. It does not necessarily mean your product is bad. It may simply mean the model does not strongly associate your brand with the category yet. Possible reasons include: your website does not clearly explain your category. There are not enough third-party mentions of your brand. Your competitors have stronger content and authority. Your brand name is too new. Your positioning is too broad or unclear. In this case, your first job is to strengthen your entity and category signals. That means your website should clearly say what you do, who you serve, and which problem you solve. For example, instead of saying, AI-powered productivity for modern teams, say something more specific. AI customer support automation for Shopify stores. Legal AI assistant for contract review and law firm workflows. LLM observability and root cause analysis for AI agents. Clear language helps both humans and AI systems understand you. Scenario 2. Your brand is mentioned but described inaccurately. This is also very important. Maybe ChatGPT mentions your company, but says you are a generic chatbot. Or it says you are only for enterprise users, even though you serve startups. Or it misses your main feature. Or it uses old information. This is a brand accuracy issue. In this case, the problem is not visibility. The problem is representation. You need to ask, where is ChatGPT getting this impression? Is your website outdated? Are old articles ranking higher than your current positioning? Are third-party pages describing you incorrectly? Is your homepage too vague? This is why AI visibility is not just a marketing issue. It is also a messaging issue. If AI systems misunderstand your brand, some real customers may misunderstand it too. Scenario 3. Your brand appears in some prompts, but competitors dominate. This is probably the most common case for companies that already have some awareness. For example, you may appear in 20% of prompts, but your competitor appears in 70%. That tells you the model recognizes your category, but your brand is not as strongly associated with it. In this case, look at where competitors are winning. Are they mentioned in best tools prompts? Are they mentioned in comparison prompts? Are they mentioned in specific use case prompts? Are they being described as leaders? Are they being recommended for a specific audience? This gives you a roadmap. If competitors dominate comparison prompts, you may need comparison pages. If competitors dominate use case prompts, you may need use case pages. If competitors dominate educational prompts, you may need stronger tutorials, guides, and documentation. If competitors dominate buyer intent prompts, you may need clearer positioning, reviews, testimonials, and credibility signals. Scenario 4. Your brand appears but not in the right category. This can happen when your brand has multiple meanings, or your product positioning is confusing. For example, maybe you want to be known as an AI sales tool, but ChatGPT describes you as a CRM plugin. Or you want to be known as an LLM observability platform, but ChatGPT thinks you are only an evaluation tool. This is a category association problem. In this case, you should update your public messaging. Your homepage, title tags, docs, blog posts, and comparison pages should consistently connect your brand to the category you want to own. Now let's talk about what signals ChatGPT may be using. This part is a little tricky because we do not know every detail of how the model chooses brands. But we can still reason about likely signals. AI systems may be influenced by your website content, your documentation, high-quality third-party articles, review sites, comparison pages, news articles, community discussions, Reddit, YouTube, GitHub if you are a technical product, public customer stories, brand mentions across the web, freshness and consistency of information. So if your brand is missing, the fix is not simply to repeat your brand name more times. The fix is to make your product easier to understand, easier to categorize, and easier to trust. That means creating content that answers real buyer questions. For example, what is category? How to choose category software. Best practices for use case. Your product versus competitor. Alternatives to competitor. How specific customer type can solve specific problem. You want to help both humans and AI systems understand where your product fits. Now let's walk through a simple example. Imagine you are building a product called Support AI, and it helps Shopify stores automate customer support. You test 30 prompts. Your brand appears in 3 prompts. Your top competitors appear in 18, 15, and 12 prompts. That tells you your visibility is weak. Then you look at the prompt clusters. You appear in some broad AI customer support prompts, but you do not appear in Shopify-specific prompts. You also do not appear in alternatives to gorgeous prompts. And you do not appear in buyer intent prompts like, what is the best AI customer support tool for a small e-commerce brand? Now you have an actual diagnosis. The issue is not just, we need more visibility. The issue is, ChatGPT does not strongly associate Support AI with Shopify support automation or gorgeous alternatives. That gives you a very specific action plan. You could create a landing page called AI Customer Support for Shopify stores, a comparison page called Support AI versus Gorgeous, a blog post called Best AI Customer Support Tools for E-commerce Brands, case study from a Shopify merchant, an FAQ page answering buyer questions. This is how you move from measurement to action. Now here is one mistake I want you to avoid. Do not ask only direct brand prompts. For example, is my brand a good company? What does my brand do? Should I use my brand? These prompts are useful for checking brand accuracy, but they do not test discovery. Discovery happens when the user does not know your brand. So your prompt set should include mostly category, use case, comparison, and buyer intent questions. Another mistake is testing only one prompt and making a conclusion. If you ask one question and your brand does not appear, that does not mean you are invisible. If you ask one question and your brand appears, that does not mean you are doing great. You need a prompt set. You need patterns. You need comparison against competitors. A third mistake is ignoring the actual wording of the response. Sometimes being mentioned is not enough. For example, ChatGPT might say, some other tools include your brand, though it is less established. That is different from saying, your brand is a strong choice for small businesses. The sentiment and context matter. You should record whether the mention is positive, neutral, or negative. A recent report covered research suggesting that AI answers can include negative brand sentiment, especially in comparison or controversy-related contexts. So brand visibility is not only about being mentioned. It is also about how you are mentioned. Now, if you want to make this process more reliable, you can repeat each prompt multiple times. For example, run each prompt 3 times. If your brand appears once out of 3, that tells you your presence is unstable. If your brand appears all 3 times, that is stronger. If your competitor appears all 3 times and you appear 0 times, that is a clear gap. For manual test, this may take more time, but it gives you a better view of consistency. At the beginning, I would suggest 20 to 30 prompts, 1 run each. Then if you find interesting gaps, repeat the most important prompts 3 to 5 times. This keeps the process manageable. Now, what should you do after you finish the analysis? Create a simple report. Can include your overall mention rate, your score by prompt type, top competitors, prompts where you appeared, prompts where you were missing, prompts where you were described incorrectly, top 3 root causes, top 5 recommended fixes. This report can be very useful for your marketing plan, because instead of guessing what content to write, you can prioritize content based on visibility gaps. For example, if you are missing from comparison prompts, write comparison content. If you are missing from use case prompts, write use case pages. If you are described incorrectly, fix your homepage and key third-party descriptions. If your competitors dominate educational prompts, publish stronger guides. If ChatGPT does not associate you with your category, make your positioning more explicit and consistent. Now let me give you a simple scoring template you can use. For each prompt score, brand appears, 1 point. Brand appears in top 3 mentions, 1 extra point. Description is accurate, 1 point. Mention is positive or clearly useful, 1 point. So each prompt can get up to 4 points. If you test 25 prompts, the maximum score is 100. That gives you a simple visibility and quality score. You can also score competitors the same way. This lets you compare, Your brand, 28 out of 100. Competitor A, 72 out of 100. Competitor B, 60 out of 100. Competitor C, 45 out of 100. Again, the number does not need to be perfect. The goal is to create a repeatable benchmark. If you run the same test every month, you can see whether your visibility improves over time. That is the real value. You are not trying to prove one exact ranking. You are trying to measure direction. Are you becoming more visible? Are you being described more accurately? Are you closing the gap with competitors? Are your new pages or content updates helping? This is how AI visibility becomes a real marketing workflow. So to summarize, here is the full process. First, define your category. Second, create a prompt set across discovery, use case, comparison, buyer intent, and educational prompts. Third, run the prompts in ChatGPT without biasing the answer. Fourth, record mentions, positions, competitors, accuracy, sentiment, and notes. Fifth, calculate a simple visibility score. Sixth, identify root causes for missing or inaccurate mentions. Seventh, create content and positioning updates based on those gaps. And eighth, repeat the test over time. This is the basic way to check whether ChatGPT recommends your brand. And honestly, this process can already give you a lot of insight even before you use any tool. But if you want to track many prompts, many competitors, and changes over time, then a system or software tool becomes very helpful. That is one of the reasons I created this channel. On GenAI Lens, we are going to explore how brands appear in ChatGPT, AI search, and other answer engines, and what companies can do to improve their visibility. In future videos, I will show real examples and tear down different categories like legal AI, customer support AI, sales AI, healthcare AI, developer tools, and more. The big idea is this. Your future customers may be asking ChatGPT for recommendations. You need to know whether your brand is part of the answer. And if you are not part of the answer, you need to understand why. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this video gave you a practical way to start checking your brand's visibility in ChatGPT. If you found this helpful, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video.